Kevin Cunningham, First Selectman, Town of Plainfield. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It's a little cold out, but thank you all for coming out. I'm just going to do a quick introduction. Heather is about maybe 10 or 15 minutes out. Okay? So on our way. Okay. So in the meantime, I do again want to thank you for coming out. You have in front of you House GOP reps and Dauphinais and Dubitsky. So there are packets in the back that talk a little bit about the legislative issues that are in front of everybody. It's not just these people, it's in front of everybody. So if you wanted to do that, you can grab a packet back there. There's also a sign-in sheet if you want follow-up information from someone. So if you had a question for any of these people here that don't have an answer immediately, you can do a follow-up with them by just getting your information back there. So with that, does everybody have these packets? They have an understanding of what's been going on in the legislative sessions for the last, I don't know how many months, and still things in front of us. And I'm sure you all have questions about what's been going on. And this is a time for you to actually have a nice open town hall meeting where you can ask your representatives what's going on, talk about things that are happening, and see if you can get some answers. So with that, I would open up the floor to Doug and Ann, and I guess Heather should be here shortly. Ann, would you like to go first?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know most of the people in this room, so it's great to have you here and be able to talk to you face to face. I'm, for those of you that don't know, my name is Ann Dauphinais. I represent the 44th District. It consists of Killingly, Sterling, and Plainfield. I am ranking member on the Children's Committee, and I am on Public Education, and I am on Public Health and Education, excuse me. And this is my 10th year serving, and I'm honored to be here tonight and looking forward to some good dialogue.
I thank you all for coming. These meetings are very helpful to us. As you may know, the legislative session is starting on Wednesday, the 4th. This is a short session year, meaning that we are going to be in session from February, first Wednesday in February to the first Wednesday in May. In odd years, which would be next year, we are in from the first Wednesday in January through the first Wednesday in June. So in long session, we do the budget, 2-year budget. Short session, which is this year, we do budget amendments. I am Doug Dubitsky. I represent 8 towns. I represent Brooklyn, Canterbury, Chaplin, Plainfield, Norwich, Lisbon, Scotland, and Sprague. I sit on 3 committees. I sit on the Judiciary Committee, the Planning and Development Committee, and the Environment Committee. Judiciary Committee obviously deals with the judiciary, the courts, judges, any law that has a penalty of some sort, any law that all criminal and civil statutes, so anything that deals with courts. We confirm judges. All judges need to be nominated and confirmed every 8 years. Unlike the federal system, they're not life appointments. They're up every 8 years, and they come before our committee for public hearings. The Environment Committee obviously deals with environmental issues. It deals with anything that has to do with animals. It deals with anything that has to do with farming. So pollution issues, farming issues, animal rights issues, animal abuse issues, Planning and development deals with anything that affects municipalities. So it involves the delegation of power from the state to the towns, what the towns have the power to do and not do, anything that deals with land use, generally goes through planning and development. So we have on the table back there is major legislative issues. This is not created by us. This was created by the Office of Legislative Research, which is a nonpartisan branch of the legislature. That this is essentially the legislature's staff creates this. They came up with these issues. We did not. I actually just picked this up. I have not been through it, so I don't know what it says, but I can assure you that there are issues here that will not be addressed this year, and there are issues that will be addressed this year that are not in here. The Office of Legislative Research generally tries to write sort of balanced, nonpartisan descriptions of what the issues are, but I've been through these before, and I can tell you that there are times when I read these and I say, well, one thing, that's not the issue that's going to be addressed, and for another thing, even if it were the issue, I don't agree with it. So read this, with a grain of salt, and it's generally a good overview of what might be discussed, but there's no guarantee that any of these issues will or won't be addressed. One of the reasons why we hold these meetings is to get input from you. We have, in a short session, a very short deadline for introducing bills. Our deadline this year, I believe, is next Friday. So we start the legislative session, opening day is Wednesday. We have 2 days to make sure our bills are in. After Friday, it's pretty much it. We can sometimes wiggle that a little bit when it comes to introducing amendments to other bills that are on a similar topic, but we don't have the flexibility that we do in a long session where we can just introduce a bill. All bills in a short session are what's called committee bills. Instead of me introducing a bill with my name on it, like I would in a long session, in a short session, I have to write a letter to the committee of cognizance. So if I've got like a bill that would deal with education or something like that, I would write a letter to the education committee with my proposed bill, and I'd say, please take up this issue, make this a committee bill of the education committee. So we do things a little different in the alternate years, and this year it's a little tough. So because it's a short session. So if you have suggestions on bills or issues that you think are important, that's why we're here to listen. Because we don't have a lot of time after opening day, and if there's an issue that's important to you or your business or your town or the state, we want to hear about it. And perhaps we'll talk to you later or talk offline to get more input into it. But this is our opportunity to hear from you. So certainly if you have a question for us, we'd be glad to try to answer it. But the main reason why we're sitting here is to hear from you as to what's important. All right? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh.
I think they wanted, if you could go up to the mic, whoever's going to speak. so we can, everybody can.
Can you hit the button on it? Yes.
Hello.
And then give us your name and your town, if you would.
Okay. My name's Dan DiTullio. I live in Plainfield. My question has to do with the surcharges on vehicle registration fees every year, having to do with park entrances and such. Prior to this, we were told that as you become 65 years or older, you have free entrance into the parks. The reason I raise this is I have multiple vehicles, so it becomes fairly significant if you register each one and nailed each time for that extra fee. So I didn't know if there's a possibility of maybe altering the rules such that it had an exemption for senior citizens, or perhaps, after your first registration, you get a waiver for that. That's one of my concerns.
That did come up. We were all in a meeting the other day, and it will be a House Republican caucus bill. We have proposed to remove that surcharge. So that is there. I don't know where it'll go. Do you know any more about it, Doug? I mean, we talked about it the other day.
Yeah, that the passport for parks fee is a fee that came through the Environment Committee. I fought very hard against that because I don't think it's fair to charge people on every vehicle they have. Even if they decide to go to a park, they can only go with one car. They can't drive more than one car. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem fair to me to have a fee on every vehicle. Previously, there were certain people who were exempt. Disabled veterans were completely exempt from a fee. If they went to a park, they could get in for free. Now, not only do they have to pay, but they have to pay even if they don't go, and they have to pay on every single vehicle they own. So I have, every year since that passed, have introduced various bills to get rid of the fee, to change it, to add exemptions. There is a constituency who believes that that fee is doing good for the parks, and they had been trying for a long time to find a consistent funding source for the parks, and they found one that they could get through. So I hear you. I've got it on the list. I will again fight to get rid of that fee, or at least to create some exemptions and to have it on only a single vehicle for any given family. Thank you very much. And Senator Summers, you want to say hi to everybody?
Good evening. I'm sorry I'm late. I was in a budget with the governor earlier, so I'm late to the party, so to speak, and the traffic was terrible, so I do apologize.
Well, that was the first question, so you want to
I didn't know what
introduce
the
yourself?
question
That's okay. You don't have to answer it. You just introduce yourself, say hi to everybody.
Hi, I'm Heather Summers. I'm a senator from the 18th district. I am ranking member of appropriations for the budget, so we've had our sort of intimate budget discussion today. I also am the ranking member of public health. I sit in commerce. I sit on regs review. I'm the chair of the tourism caucus, and I sit on a variety of other caucuses, the rural caucus, the biotech caucus, and I'm also on education committee. So very busy. We have a lot more committees as senators. There's fewer of us, so we have to carry many things. So I'm excited to be here and listen to your concerns or your questions and try to answer them as best as we can going into the new legislative session. Thanks for the cookies, whoever.
Yes.
Oh, I represent 8 towns in eastern Connecticut, Plainfield all the way down to Groton. So I you want me to list them all, I can, but.
Does anyone else have a question? Or a proposal of some sort? Issue you think is important?
Did you go over the legislative session? Or you don't put those?
Yes.
Okay.
You are free to do anything you want with it.
Perfect. My name is Jared Thomas Ravello. I'm the Environmental Health and Safety Manager at Plainfield Renewable Energy on the street here.
At which?
Oh, PRA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Plainfield Renewable Energy.
Okay.
We did just.
Wood plant.
Oh, that was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to stand up here. I just wanted to personally thank all three of you for the effort that you put in this last legislative session to help get this procurement underway with power purchase agreement. We understand that it's not a small task, and
No, it was not. That's for sure.
me and a few colleagues are here, really just wanted to express that thanks to you all, because we know how important this facility is to the state and the waste management struggles that we have by diverting all the waste.
You need to get closer to the mic.
Yeah, you need to raise that mic stand up.
Oh,
So raise the whole thing, raise the mic.
Yeah, you
Lower it.
grab the
power there.
adjuster, there you go.
There you go.
Much better. Sorry about that, everybody.
Make us start all over.
Oh. So, my name is Jared Thomas Ravello. I'm the Environmental Health and Safety Manager for Plainfield Renewable Energy. And as I just mentioned, I just wanted to express thanks to them because they really fought for us in this past legislative session to help us secure another power purchase agreement for our facility, at least start the process for it. And in the state of Connecticut, it really is a tall order. And for those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with our facility, we represent over half the state's volume reduction capacity for waste wood that comes from Lake Casella, USA Recycle, CWPM, and take hundreds of thousands of tons. We purchase that material from them that would otherwise be sent to a landfill. And so we take that material, reduce the volume by over 95%, return clean energy to an already constrained energy grid in Connecticut. So we really do provide a lot of service to the waste management and material recycling facilities, because in the state, fortunately, we're in a position where a lot of our trash is being Plainfield Renewable Energy, right down the road.
The wood chip plant.
Correct. Aptly named. Yeah, so.
Well, we are working, we sent a letter, actually it was drafted with Doug and Ann's name on it, to ask the commissioner when this RFP is actually gonna start moving. Unfortunately for us, we have a commissioner of environment and energy and environment who does not like biomass facilities. And it has how many hours? We spent so many hours in a conference with her and others from her team. They don't like biomass, but they don't have a solution other than to take the wood and to stick it in a landfill, which is not a good solution. So we are going to continue to fight. It's the only Class 1 biomass facility we have in the state of Connecticut, and we plan on keeping it, and we want to be able to have you expand, because I know you have capacity, and we have plenty of wood to send to you. It just makes no sense, but you know, you have the team here that's willing to fight. We also know how important it is to Plainfield from a revenue as far as taxes are concerned, so we want to make sure that you are able to stay and be successful, and we will do everything that we can to move our commissioner along to get the RFP out. If we can get the RFP out, we have a really good chance of winning the RFP, because there's only one biomass facility in the state of Connecticut, so
Yeah.
we just have to get that out.
I appreciate that. We understand that recently the DEP essentially stated that they, in soliciting for the RFP, have met the requirements under the legislation, which we think is a little ludicrous. So anything that you all can do to continue to fight for us, we really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all the efforts that you've done.
It's also especially important because, you know, there's a push to put the trash plant here in Plainfield, and Plainfield doesn't want that, and we're fighting against that. And we've used the fact that this exists in Plainfield already. We have this facility, and we don't need another one. that would add to that. So I know that
Here, here.
Senator Summers has talked about that several times, so, and pushed for that argument. So we would benefit by keeping that here as well. So I think, I don't know, Heather or Doug, do you want to talk more to that, because that is part of it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem, it doesn't seem to make much sense that you've got a plant that's operational, and if some people in the legislature had their druthers, they would close your plant and open a different plant. Doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So, you know, we're fighting very hard to make sure that your plant stays open, and this other plant, you know, we passed two bills, and I'll let Senator Summers talk about it more, but we passed a bill through both chambers, two different bills, to make sure that the people of Plainfield get to vote on whether or not to bring the trash plan here. The governor vetoed. So, you know, we'll obviously keep going, keep fighting for it, but he only vetoed 3 bills in all year last year, and ours was one of them.
Okay, I can say a little bit more about that. But we don't give up. So we have another bill this year, which is the same thing, a little bit more tailored, saying if you are in an environmental justice community, which you are, of under 20,000, and you already have an existing burn plant, even if it's a class 1 biomass facility, that the town gets to vote as to whether they want to add yet another burn plant, because you already have one. That's a bill that we are going to be putting in, the 3 of us, and we will have to go through the process again. I think that will send sort of a chilling effect if the governor decides to veto it this time. There are many, and we have said this, Eastern Connecticut is tired of taking Fairfield's garbage. We have a massive garbage problem in the state of Connecticut, and for me, that sits at the governor, well, I guess the governor has been saying that, but the commissioner's lap, so to speak. We've known that we've had a garbage problem. The Mirror plant is closed. For all that we hear about our environmental stewardship in the state of Connecticut, what we are doing literally is loading up diesel trucks and taking our trash to Pennsylvania and Ohio. So that's not helping her emissions issue. And it's going to become more and more costly because they are now testing the trash for things like PFAS and PBOA and all those things that don't go away. And they're going to come back and charge more, so you'll see your tipping fees go way up. So it makes sense for us to have an aerobic digestion, a incinerator that is burning things that are dry, not wet, like an aerobic digestion, and keep our biomass facilities here. It just makes sense, so we have to just keep pushing. Common sense is sometimes lacking in Hartford, unfortunately.
I used to work in here as well.
We try to bring that back sometimes, so
Right.
that's where we are.
And just so everybody knows what happened, you know, a huge percentage of the trash that's processed in Connecticut was being processed in Hartford. An enormous plant there. It got old, and rather than renovate it and continue to use it, they closed it down. And now they're scrambling. Right now, most of the trash is just going on trains and going out to Ohio into big landfills. So what they're trying to do now is they're trying to find places out where nobody lives. Well, that's here. That's what they're, you know, we'll put it out in the hinterlands where nobody lives. And sorry, people live here. You know, we're certainly fighting that. You know, my feeling is they should reopen the plant in Hartford. It's already there. They've already got all the infrastructure ready to go for it. They should just spend the money and renovate that one.
And the same pressure stroke.
And send you all the wood.
And send us all the wood.
Right.
But that's right, taking pressure off of the material recycling, because we talk about railing trash out. Without us, over half of that wood, hundreds of thousands of tons of wood a year, end up getting railed out somewhere else at the cost of tipping fees.
Right.
Well, and the argument is stronger by keeping you in existence, because you're already here.
Right.
And so that's the goal. And we're going to submit that letter, I think, to several committees. So we're working on it.
Excellent. Thank you all very much.
Thanks for being here.
Who's next?
You're taking questions now, right?
Questions, comments, proposals, anything you like?
Since we're talking about the trash plant, I wanted to continue on that.
Step closer to the mic, please.
Sorry, is this better? Can you hear me okay? So I just wanted to continue on that, and I wanted to ask, are you aware that the site proposed for the trash plant is in a valley?
Yes.
Okay, have you been advised on the proposed legislation for like not allowing the trash plant to be built in a valley?
Yes, we drafted.
Are you willing to support that moving
It
forward?
was our bill.
We drafted, yeah.
So
That's our bill.
We passed the bill in 2 different areas.
okay.
So we passed 2 bills, and I'll let you know that's a Herculean task to get it out of the House and the Senate, 2 different bills with the same language, and the governor vetoed them. So 3 bills he vetoed all session, 2 had to do with the trash plant. So we're back to square one.
Okay. I just thought that considering the location and it being in the valley would be something important to
Part of the
readdress
argument.
and would really, help
We
get this.
agree with you 100%.
Also the location of it is terrible. And also with the trash plant, I hope you guys look forward to maybe other ways of reducing waste. Not just let's build another trash plant, let's just like get Hartford rerunning. Maybe try to work with our trash plant people, Casella, our CMW around here to try to reduce the waste. Maybe, you know how the trash plant is separating the solids. Maybe we try figuring a way to decompose our regular waste too, to try to reduce it ourselves.
Well, one of the things that, that the trash plant shouldn't go where they proposed it, at least in my view. Obviously, I would like the people of the town to be able to decide that. But on the other hand, that plant is a extremely modern plant that does reduce a lot of the waste. Some of it, there's several different elements to it. Perhaps that would be great technology somewhere else. But that technology is designed to reduce the amount of leftover waste that is dumped in landfills. It does process it into energy and other materials.
I also worry about the amount of trucks that are coming into town as well. The amount of warehouses that continue to come into town is a little concerning. The amount of companies that we have buying up large amounts of land and making warehouses is also concerning. And I wonder if you would maybe, or would even be able to address limiting the amount of acreage that a company can acquire at one time within the town.
That's really
That's
a
a local
local
issue.
issue.
That you'd have to talk to your select people about that. And I think that would be unconstitutional to tell somebody they can't buy a certain amount of acreage. That through your planning and zoning, you would have to establish, a commercial area, and you could try to limit it through that. But that's really local here with your board of selectmen and your planning and zoning.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So your guys is coming into the next session is to just, what is it, the environmental justice, under 20,000, is that what you're going for?
Well, I think we have to,
Several.
we have to do several things. And, last time, I think the bill received a little bit of pushback because it was written broadly. It was saying if you are an environmental justice community of 16,000 or less, you get to vote if you want to have if there's a trash facility going to be sited in your town. It's pretty broad, so that could apply to anyone, and I know CBIA was very upset about that. So this time, the bill that we have generated is it's much more specific to Plainfield. It says, under 20,000, environmental justice community, a town that already has a burn ban, which is basically describing Plainfield. That wouldn't necessarily apply so broadly, that you would be able to vote by referendum, and that would have to be taken up and considered by the siting council. If you all vote yes, then they can do what they want. If they vote no, then they would have to reject it. So it's a little bit more specific. I don't know whether the governor will veto it or not. one of the things that you all could help with is if we can get that bill raised and through the system again, this will be the third time going through the House and Senate, which is not easy, then we need to have you write letters of support, like to the governor's office, please do not veto this bill is important to Plainfield. And we may have a better outcome because it's an election year and he's not going to want to make everybody in Plainfield unhappy. So that's all we can do is keep trying to spin the cat in a different way.
Yeah, I really hope that everybody's on board with this, and we really try not to get this place built.
Well, certainly the three of us will be on board with a bill. I'm not certain what exactly it's going to say yet, but we will continue to fight to make sure that the people of this town get to vote on whether they want that plan or not. In all the time I've been in the legislature, I have never seen an effort as active and as multi-pronged as the effort to get those two bills through, one in the Senate and one in the House. Each bill not only had to go through their own chamber, but they had to go through the other chamber. So we got 4 bills passed, essentially. We got one bill, with each bill passed through both chambers. So it was an amazing feat, and it involved a lot of arm twisting, a lot of pressure on various things. There was a time, I hate to admit it, where I was being stalked by members of the governor's office because they were a little pissed off that I was holding up one of the governor's bills in order to make sure that we got our bill through. There was a lot of things that went into getting these 2 bills passed, and it really is a shame that the governor vetoed them.
It is.
Do you think the Valley Community thing is an avenue that you take though, or?
We have used that, we've used the location, that was part of the argument.
Do you think you'll try it again this session,
And
or?
we just said we're gonna try it again, yep,
Okay.
another bill. This is a different session though, you can't put in bills, you have to write a letter and ask the committee to bring it up.
Okay.
So it's this is a short session, so it's not as clear as it is in the other sessions. And all we can do is keep advocating and trying. I will tell you, it became a big issue. I actually shut down, it was the last day that we could get bills, and the Senate shut down. It was stopped. There was no bills going because of this particular bill to cut a negotiation. Actually, one senator was so mad, he actually threw a chair. And I stopped it. I was like, well, we don't have to call any bills until we fix this. And then we finally get it out, and the governor vetoed it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I appreciate your efforts. I hope that this plan doesn't come to town. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Amy Parksensky, and I'm a lifelong resident of Plainfield. First of all, I'm glad I voted for you because you're doing a great job, and I really, really appreciate you thinking outside the box. You know, when you said when they vetoed you the first time, you came in through the back door and said, okay, we're going to refine this, and we're going to say, if you're environmental justice, if you're under 20,000, and if you already are burning stuff, you get to vote. It's genius, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. I've been following this with outrage since I learned about it, and I have a few specific questions for you. My brother's an Air Force meteorologist, and when I heard about this, I called him and I said, what can I do? He said, it's going to be tough. It's the best technology in the world. He said, and your best strategy is to delay it and make it difficult. So I thought that was an interesting insight, but I have some specific questions. The first one is, DEEP recently rejected an air permitting application because the plant cannot be classified as a waste-to-energy facility. That's because the facility does not provide much energy to the grid, less than 1% of the state's needs. It has to reapply with 3 different permits One is volume reduction and the other two are waste processing. Since the facility is not an energy facility, but a waste treatment facility, will it still fall under the purview of the Siting Council, whose statutory mandate is limited to energy producing facilities, to telecommunications, and to hazardous waste? This facility is none of these things, so I'm wondering if the Siting Commission is still relevant to it, since DEEP itself has said this is not an energy facility. So that was an email that came from Madison Spinelli, who's part of the Connecticut Zero Waste Coalition. That's one question. The second question is...
Wait, you gotta go one question at a time. Those questions are pretty technical. There's no way my brain can hold on to more than one at a
And I
time.
just want to make sure you're talking about the proposed waste facility? I can't answer that
Would you
question.
like-
I'd have to go back and look what DEEP actually wrote. It's an interesting angle though. If they actually said that this is not really an energy facility, then why would we?
I can forward that
Yeah,
email
that would
to
be
you,
great.
because when I read it, I thought, hip, hooray. Because this is what we've been saying all along. This is not about energy. This is about getting rid of trash. And once DEEP itself said, this is not about energy because it's not feeding the grid, then what voice does the Siting Commission have, Siting Council have at all in this? You know?
Well, it is gonna feed the grid. It may not be a lot, but it is feeding the grid. That's one of the reasons why they said they wanna put it there, because it's next to a grid line.
Yeah, but, you know, I guess it's a fine point, but,
So you're saying DEEP said if it was
DEEP
less than
said-
1%, it's not considered. So that's something we can look at.
and I was really encouraged by this, because honestly, I thought, we don't have a fighting chance in hell. You know, this is one of the best technologies in the world. It's a multinational company. They have some of the best lawyers in the world. How can we read through these 600-page documents and find a flaw? You know, they're not going to make mistakes. And when I read that they had made a mistake, I thought, yes. And I thought, you know what? They underestimated us. And also, the person who was head of DEEP did not receive this well. I think she knew that in a way the application was trying, it felt like anyway, this was an inappropriate application. How do you submit the wrong application to DEEP? And yet they did. And she caught it and she wasn't happy about it. She said, this is wrong. This is not really an energy facility, this is a waste facility. And you gave me the wrong permit. So I thought, you know what? They underestimated us so much that we needed to really track this, because they made a mistake and she caught it. So anyway, that's one question, is the Siting Council still relevant if DEEP itself
Yes.
has said that this is not about the energy?
Yes.
The Siting
Yes,
Commission-
Siting Council would cite it even if it didn't produce any energy. It would still go through the Siting Council.
Even though the statutory regulations are for energy production, telecommunications, and hazardous waste, so the Siting Commission still has control over it, even though it's not really an energy? That's my question. See, it's like, because I read through all of the Siting Commission stuff, and, you know, when I heard that this was sort of being reclassified according to DEEP, at least in my understanding, and this is complicated, you know what I mean? And so but I was happy when I saw that DEEP was saying this is not about energy, this is about waste. And so...
It's a good thing to look into, but I don't think that issue is going to be determinative, because there is going to be energy generated. You know, even the anaerobic digester on its own would produce sufficient energy to make it go through the Siting Council.
It's like a Trojan horse or a virus. It's hiding itself under the umbrella of energy, but what it really is about is getting rid of waste.
Right.
So anyway, that was one question.
In a state where there is, I hate to get political, but when you have one party rule, sometimes the rules don't get followed the way they're supposed to. So just because it may say that something isn't supposed to happen, doesn't mean the governor can't just say, do it.
Well, I'm glad you framed that embarrassing piece of legislation, because if it gets vetoed, at least it's not going to look good, right? I have a couple of other questions. Can I ask them? Okay, so the second question is, first of all, I hope this doesn't go down at all. But if it does, the application for the proposed incinerator is for a facility that occupies 84 acres with a 115-acre buffer zone, located within a 500-acre parcel. Can we legislatively restrict the facility to that footprint to ensure that the plant doesn't grow permit by permit to increase in size and the additional 300 acres? So my fear is this could potentially become one of the biggest incinerators in the world because of this huge plot of land. So can we stop this now? I mean, I hope it's a no, but if it's a yes, can we at least confine it to the 84 acres? If I owned that land and I knew that the entire country was trying to get rid of trash, I would expand permit by permit. And my fear is that this isn't going to be about 84 acres, it's going to be 384 acres. They're going to burn every piece of trash they can. And why wouldn't they? You know, that's the second question. Can we restrict it?
That's definitely a good thought. What I would hate to do, though, is put in a bill limiting it to a certain size while there's still an opportunity to give the town the ability to vote on it, because if we put in that bill, it may be an acknowledgement that we agree that it should go there.
So it's
I
premature.
don't want to give that impression at all.
Back pocket for
Next year.
further down the road.
Okay, and third question. Can we legislatively ensure that trash for the facility comes only from Connecticut and not from other states? I mean, there's a railroad spur in there. If you owned that company, wouldn't you be getting stuff from Florida and California? I would. Yeah, so those are my major questions. I have other ones, but I'll wait till others have talked. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
But anyway,
We
Ben
don't
Hall
judge.
from the town of Lisbon. What's that?
We don't judge.
Thank you,
Not
sir.
at all.
We recently in our town had a public hearing on a proposed zoning change of over 200 acres of land bordering Route 12 and Lee Road in Lisbon, and being to be changed from R40, R60 to IP1 industrial. We had so many people come out that we had to move the meeting from the town hall to the new meeting house, which is an old church. And 26 people spoke against it, and nobody spoke in favor of it. The P&Z was told before we voted on this that there are built into being an industrial zone, there are protections against a property owner or a developer using the 830G appeals process. And we were told that if we stayed R40 or 60, that's prone to that being used and having intense housing, and that's what the people came out and there was their concern that we would have a lot of high-density housing built on this. And again, that's what we were told. In my research, I have not been able to find anything that said that an industrial zone is somehow protected from the use of the appeals process, and I didn't know if you might have any knowledge on that.
I don't know if 830G is exempt in a industrial zone. My guess is the answer would be no.
That would be my guess
But
as well.
it's only a guess, and I could be 100% wrong.
Having seen so many mills and stuff being turned into housing, it didn't seem to make sense to me.
I'm trying to text some people, see if they know the answer.
Wow, thank you very much, Senator, I appreciate
I
that.
don't know if we'll get it, but.
Okay, all right, that's all I had to ask, that's my question. Thank you very much.
Well, I would think that any place that allows residential development would be subject to an 830G appeal. If you're not allowed to build housing in a zone, then it would make sense that you couldn't have an appeal of an 830G application, because you can put an 830G application in an industrial zone.
Well, my understanding, and it's not complete, obviously, right, it was that the 830G throws out the zoning regulations. And
No,
the only way we can
entirely.
fight it is through a health concern or something like that, which we've done in our town already. We've had.
No, it's only, the application still has to meet all of the requirements. You can't just say, well, we're gonna put low-income housing in the middle of a lake. Well, sorry, you can't do that. You can't put it there, so if it's denied, your appeal is gonna go nowhere.
I talked to a land use professional also, and he told me that someone could come in, a developer with a commercial project that had a residential element to it, and he could use the 830G in that case.
That is entirely
Is that probably
possible.
true?
I don't know the answer to
Okay,
that.
all right.
Your guy may be right.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I can answer, I'll make sure I can.
Thank you, Heather.
Hi, Eric Colello. I'm a Plainfield resident. I want to thank you for supporting us in trying to divert this trash plant here. I appreciate that very much, and a lot of people in this room do. You mentioned if we needed to support a bill, if something was coming out, we could email. Is there an easy way that could be sent out to us, and so we have
Sure.
access to it, and if we can pass that around? That'd be great.
If anybody wants to leave, if you want to pick one person to put on, I can share it with everybody.
Okay.
My aide is here, Mariah, and you could, if you
Okay.
have your information,
So we could reach out to that.
yes,
Yeah.
or if you sign up, we all have newsletters. I know it's a pain, but if you go to our website and you sign up, you'll get like e-blasts, and a lot of times I'll send an e-blast to say, hey, if you want to write a letter about this, if you're against this, here's the link, here's how you do it, here's where you send it. So if you sign up for our e-blast on our website, then you'll get it, and it's just an easy way to keep track of what's going on.
We'll change the topic. It's coming through the pamphlet here. So, what's your thought on smart devices in schools? I know we already have. You're against that. So would you be like, I work in a school system, so I see a lot of this stuff. Would you say no schools, no phones all day, yonder pouches? Like, what would your solution be?
Well, I can tell you that I introduced a bill, this will be the third year of the study.
Yeah.
It's the first of its kind study in the nation with UConn, and it's studying the effects of cell phones in schools. There are 4 schools participating in the study, and they have, I'm not allowed to tell you, but there's some in Eastern Connecticut and there's some in the other end of the state. And they are collecting all the data. They're not actually physically taking the phones, but they're taking it, putting it in a pouch that has to be locked away.
Like the yonder pouches, something like that.
You can't use it, and they're not using it like to get information during the day.
Yeah.
So far, the preliminary results are the kids actually liking it.
Yeah.
And the teachers like it, it's the parents that don't like it. Because the parents want to be in touch with their, that's the preliminary data that we have. The study is not finished yet. As soon as it is finished, it'll be published. But I actually was with the governor in Groton when we were at a high school, and one of the questions from the students were, what do you think about banning cell phones? And he said, absolutely ban them, and the whole place went very negative. They did not like that. They felt like we were taking their arm away. There's a fantastic book, The Anxious Generation. I have copies of it. I'd happy to give it to somebody you could pass around. It is a little bit like a textbook when you first read it. I'm taking it, you've read it.
It's an excellent
but
book.
It is unbelievable. And the reason that I put the bill in is because I'm the ranking of public health, and I've been tracking the suicide rate of young girls, which is increasing over time. And I actually did a whole graphical analysis of when we had MySpace, and we had Facebook, and we had the like button, and you can actually see see the trajectory of when all these things were introduced, the rate of suicide amongst young girls just spikes. And it's so sad, and especially after COVID, it's only gotten worse. So, that's how I feel about it. But I don't know how everybody else feels.
I can speak to that. It came up yesterday. We had a meeting. It was actually the House Republicans. And the discussion surrounded what I think many of us feel is that towns should make those decisions. Your own Board of Ed should make that for your own town.
And what would a private school, how would they fall into?
Well, you would make that decision as well. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of what the senator said may or may not be true, and I'm assuming it is. Let's go with the assumption that it is. I haven't read that book. But then you get to educate your town at the meetings and tell them, you know, make the argument for why you believe it should be. So for all the students that were opposed to it, you kind of get buy-in from the parents. So I'm a big proponent for towns making decisions that match what the towns want, and that would be what I would advocate for. I don't know if you.
I agree with that. I don't want to make the decision for the towns, but personally, I'm against public schools.
I wouldn't want to see it be a state mandate. I would want to see the towns.
You would not want to see a state.
I would not want to see a state mandate. I would want the towns. I've always advocated for towns to make those decisions. I don't know where.
If there's something in state statute that the towns believe is preventing them from enacting such a policy in their schools, if they choose to do so, then certainly I would be willing to look into that and support legislation that would empower the towns to impose those policies if they chose to. Whether they chose to or not should not be mandated from Hartford, in my view. And to your question about private schools, I have very little doubt that private schools could do that right now. I don't know of anything in state statute that would prevent a private school from saying you can't come into class with a cell phone. You know, they could impose.
Could a public school say that right now because it's their district? Isn't that how it's?
They can, actually.
They can. They can say we're not going to make
And there's no cell
smartphones.
phones. You have to
And you do it in
power.
between blocks. It's still on, or you know, in the hallways,
Right.
or you could say bell to bell.
I know that I have schools in my district that have, maybe ban is not the right word, but they make the students put them in pouches, especially the younger students.
Yeah.
Shocking to me that 5-year-olds have cell phones, but they put them in a pouch, and then as they get older, like in high school, where my youngest daughter is, they can take them out in certain periods, but for the most part, they're locked in the pouch.
So I just, please always keep that in mind. As somebody who sees it directly, it makes a big difference. Having people put their phones away and make it gone, putting in phone cases in the classroom makes a big difference. I directly see that a lot of teachers do as well. Thank you. Kind of along that same lines, looking at school systems specifically, you had AI written on here. So would you look at like a state educational AI system or something like that, you know, maybe is non-biased, or do you think AI should be like an open tool where they're using any platform of it in schools?
Are you saying mandate a certain AI or,
Yeah, like there's
the state to create its own?
Well, some schools will give you an AI framework and say you need to work with it. You can't go to ChatGPT, you can't go to Gemini, you can't go to other things. Use our system because it's a little more filtered for the school system. Right now, you know, if you put in any personal information into ChatGPT, you now put your information out there, and it's, you know.
How would you propose that the state get involved in that?
I don't know.
I'm
asking you. I didn't know if that was something that would come in, like for school systems specifically.
Yeah, I would think that if the state got involved in that, it would turn into a nightmare.
Okay. They'd probably follow along with cell phone uses and stuff like that, you know, as far as technology in classrooms. And it is changing. Talk to English teachers and history teachers, and they'll, you know, tell you how it's changing. They're coming up with very creative ways to deal with it. And a lot of them I see actually moving away from technology even in one-to-one schools.
I would say I did have a bill for AI last year that did pass, and it came out of a really tragic situation that I had in one of my, I don't want to say what town, I don't want anybody to know, but where it basically makes it illegal and a crime if you were to take somebody's image, especially a young adult female's image, and put it on a different body in a pornographic way. And then when it's out there, it's all over the internet, and it's tragic for women. What happens? It's usually the women that are the victims of this. And once it's out, you can't take it down. So we did make that illegal. That was a really important bill that happened to somebody in my district, and it was devastating to her and her family. And basically taking someone's picture, putting it on.
Yeah, that's important.
Terrible.
Along the same lines of school, just, career pipelines, workforce development, how are you seeing our students get out of school systems and, move forward? Are you seeing more manufacturing within the state? There's a huge push for that, obviously, with EV and all their hires. And then, versus college, like just where you fall. And that's all I think.
I would just speak to that. I know here in the northeast corner, we have a technical school, and we have QVC, which has a really good manufacturing program, and we have the workforce group that works really hard to facilitate that. The state now provides college tuition at no cost to the students that are from Connecticut. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. Yeah, at the opportunity for students here. And I know that the local one here in Plainfield, the manufacturing facility, gives tours all the time. They love to have the students come in and see what they're doing. They're huge community partners, and they do a really good job. Yes, they're great. They're really, really good. So, yeah. So, and they partner with QVC as well. So there's a lot of things in this area that are facilitating those sorts of things.
Yeah, I can say that I represent Grotonville Electric Boat. It's my hometown. And we have an EBIT program, it's called, and they have come and asked for more money because we are graduating students regularly, but they need more and more people to be able to, they want to expand that program. They also have made it very clear that although we have these wonderful technical high schools, they're by lottery now. So they would like to see more of these programs brought into what we would consider our traditional high school. I've been a huge advocate of that. When I went to high school a very long time ago, you could graduate with an LPN degree. I don't know why we're not doing that anymore. And, we've lost everything that, I said we are, quote, overeducated under their skills, so to speak, when we're graduating our students. So I think that there is a push for that to try to bring some of those programs in. But then we run into the problem with, if you are an expert, let's say you're going to teach, I'm going to make something up, I don't know, like robotics, right? And you've done that your whole career, you're an engineer. It's difficult to find somebody who wants to come into school and teach that and then go back and get their teaching certificate in the state of Connecticut. So we have to figure out to make that a smoother process. And then sometimes we get fought by the CDA because they don't want to have that position be not a full-time teaching position in the state. So
that's 100% where I am right now.
Okay, so we're trying to help you. I actually have a bill in to allow, let's say there was a qualified CEA robotics teacher that wants to retire, and somebody like you wants to come in to give you an opportunity to work with that person until such time that you could get that 18-month certificate. But you have a lot of qualified people, but they just don't want to go back and have to get a teaching certificate. Some of my best teachers have been people that are just in the trade to show me how to do something. So that's something that we struggle with.
If I would get 100 credits in 10 years, I will be a 20-year teacher that will not get his teacher certificate.
That's great.
I represent Norwich.
Right now.
Yeah.
I represent Norwich, and I toured Norwich Tech about a week and a half ago, and I went to the automotive shop, the electrical shop, the HVAC shop, and one of the problems is that they have a lot of kids that want to do certain shops, and they just don't have the capacity. A lot of that comes down to funding, because some of those shops, it's very expensive. I sat in an electrical shop for 15 minutes, and the amount of disposables that they use, they have to bend pipe, You know, they learn to bend pipe. Well, once you bend up a pipe, it's garbage. So they go through a lot of expendables, and it's expensive. And I talked to the principal who said there's a lot of kids who are eminently qualified for any of these different shops, but they can't get into the one they want, or even the second one, or even the third one they want, because there's just too many kids. So you get some kid who really wants to be an electrician, and maybe his father was an electrician, and his grandfather was an electrician, and he wants to go to tech school to be an electrician, and all he can get is, you know, culinary. And he's like, I don't want to cook. I want to be an electrician. You know, so it's tough. I've been supporting bills to increase the capacity of the tech schools because, you know, face it, a lot of jobs are going away to AI. You know, I'm an attorney. In 10 years, who knows if there's going to be any attorneys? You're just going to punch your stuff into a computer and it's going to spit out what to do. They're not going to need me, but they're not going to replace an electrician. You know, there's still got to be a guy who runs wires. You know, still got to be a guy who pours concrete. You know, AI is not going to do that for you. So those are jobs, really good paying jobs, that are not going to be replaced. And we need more people that are doing that. And now we have a lot of kids that want to do it. It's up to the state and the municipalities to step up and allow for the capacity. Who's next? Yes, ma'am.
So I came to crash your party. I raised my family in Plainfield, but I live in Griswold. I'm still a Panther at heart, though. So because Heather's here for my 45th district, and my friends here on the 47th, I hope you don't mind that I crashed your party. But I do have a big concern because I sat in on a Zoom call just the other day with ACLU of Connecticut. And if you are familiar with what their party is about and their 45 plus friends, you should be very concerned if you don't know about it. I'm more than happy to send you the link to hear the call. But on immigration specifically, are you aware that advocacy groups like ACLU of Connecticut are actively organizing Zoom calls, trainings around ICE activity and immigration protection? And do you understand how your safe approach on that topic of not speaking out is being leveraged by these groups to control the narrative? They are going to go after our police enforcement aggressively. And if you have not heard about that link, I encourage you, because our officers are not going to be safe locally and certainly not federally. So I encourage you, if I'm able to send you that link, I would like to, because
Love to see it.
it kept me up the past 2 nights, because yeah, and they're aware, like this, the chairperson, there was a whole panel, and I know I recognized some of the other parties' representatives that were on the call, because it's a call to action, and they said that they know the feds are coming here, and they are doing their due diligence on private back channels and rallying the troops. So on Friday, I think it's Friday, ironically, when President Trump's wife is releasing her one-day movie. I don't know, maybe it's ironic, but they had it in Norwich and New London, and they are recruiting people. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, there's been a lot of information about that, and one of the things that is troubling to me is some reports that some of these protesters are actually being paid to be there. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I'd love to listen to the link.
Yes, I'm actually supporting candidates for Congress in the 5th district, which is very volatile.
Is that
And
CLA, maybe CLA?
No, Bruce Johnson and Taveros, and he is a very strong Second Amendment and is very vocal about supporting the president and the federal, should they federalize the National Guard. And not just him, because you expect that in politics, not that you expect death threats, but they also got to his wife. So it's alarming, and we need people to start being more aware, be more inquisitive, and have our officials do something about it, because it's, you know, we do have amazing advocates in Connecticut. If you don't know an advocate, you should really get to know an advocate, because it's what prompted me to get more involved. And Heather and Ann and Doug know me personally. They probably don't want to answer the phone when I call, but I'm all about helping people. I care about my community, no matter where I live. I'm currently traveling to Colorado to save children. It weighs very heavy on me, and I cannot stress enough how important they're going to go after our police enforcement.
Well, we thank you for bringing that to our attention, and if you'd send us that link, we'd appreciate it. Anyone else?
Jenny Kipsakevich, Plainfield. First, I want to say thank you to Heather Summers for really getting behind farmers over the last 3 weeks. You pivoted very quickly, and you recognized a crisis when there was one. And so that takes guts and grit, and while the fight is not over, it's a start. Second, I want to thank the three of you for your voting record. Where HB 8002 is concerned, that definitely feels like a land grab for those of us who are large parcel owners. So coming off of HB 8002 in December, and then having land assessment values, land use values change for those under PA 490 feels very deliberate and intentional. And so I ask for your continued support anytime we can regain control over these large parcel peaks. And I think affordable housing is just a wonderful mask for what took place. And then finally, the last point I want to highlight is I also thank you for your voting record, where keeping parents in control of their children's medical choices is vital. I'm very concerned about some of the bills that are being discussed right now in response to the CDC's recent changes in the vaccine schedule. So for those of us who have families who believe that the choices lies with the parents and their medical professionals, I hope that we can continue to advocate and fight for that, because Connecticut keeps stripping that right away from families. So thanks.
Thank you, and thank you to Jenny. Jenny stood up from your agriculture commission and as a personal farmer, and took many hours and days out of her time to come to Hartford to testify, to be part of a forum, to be part of a press conference, to advocate for farmers all across Connecticut on these massive assessment changes in farmland. And it's coming right at the, you know, almost the perfect storm of 8002, which is the affordable housing, you know, pricing farmers in our district and other districts almost out of business. I don't know anybody that can absorb a 560 to 2,300% increase in their taxes. It was absurd. We do have a stay, so to speak, because the governor has, under severe pressure, I may add, has kept the assessments at the 2020 level. But unfortunately, it's not really fixed, because the forestry part actually decreased. So if you have forest on your property, you're going to be paying a higher rate than you should be because of its true assessment. It is something that was eye-opening to see, well, I'm going to say, the lack of cooperation from the Department of Agriculture, who, to me, sat on their hands. If I was the Commissioner of Agriculture and saw those numbers, I would have immediately gone to the governor and said, we have to do something. But that was not the response that we received. So thankfully, with Jenny and other farmers creating a big enough stir and a press conference where the farmers got to speak, because nobody wants to hear from us. They want to hear from the people actually doing the job, And then continuing with of course, the governor came out with his stay, I think an hour before our forum, where we had all these farmers. But hearing their stories and having, real life people, not hobby farmers, but people that are actually farming to feed us, whether they're raising cattle or produce, etc. It was heartbreaking, but it really was eye-opening for people listening. So I'm confident that we'll be able to come to, some kind of better way to, or better methodology to come up with assessments in the future. And the governor is going to set up a task force that has farmers included on that to figure out how to do it. I'd love to have Jenny get on it. We talked about that today. So thank you. None of this would have happened without your advocacy and the others. It's really, we just were the conduit for you to have the voice to speak, and you guys did an amazing job. Hats off to you.
Right, I second that. But just for those in the room that may have missed like the part that she didn't say, which is the beginning, what the tax on farmland is taxed differently than residential or commercial land. And every 5 years, the state puts out a number as to how farmland should be taxed statewide. That process had worked for the last many decades, up until this year, where the number was just astronomical, and in many instances, the rate that was taxed on farmland went up hundreds of percent. For like swamp and scrub land, it went from $80, I believe it was, to $40 to $900. That's quite a jump. And people like Jenny got up and started screaming, and some of us put together some press conferences and some other things that legislators do, and we finally put some pressure with the farmers to get the governor to rescind it temporarily. He basically went back to the old numbers, the 2020 numbers.
I think it's a testimony to the fact that, your voices matter. They matter. And Senator Summers did an amazing job pulling that together like Jenny described. And Jenny did an amazing job. And all the farmers that came out, I couldn't be in Hartford, but I watched it live. I think I texted you. But it was amazing and very compelling. So that's just a testament to don't let up on the trash thing coming through. Just keep your voices out there, and we'll keep advocating for those issues. But it's a real testimony how important it is to hear from you.
Right. The state is losing farmland like crazy, and one of the reasons is taxation. Another reason is, one of my pet peeves is all these solar farms going in on farmland. You got one going in Plainfield, taking up 100 or so acres of farmland. I introduced and pushed and got through a bill 2 years ago to require that when a solar development goes in on farmland, the developer needs to post a bond, restoration bond, so at the end of the useful life of the panels, they have to restore it to farmland. One of my hopes was that it would prevent some of the conversion of farmland into solar fields, but I'm not sure it's enough. I think we, at some point we may need to push a little harder on that. My fear, though, is it really is a balancing act. You got, a farmer's had his land for, 50 years. Maybe it's been in the family for hundreds of years. The farmer doesn't have a penny to his name, but he's got this big piece of land. Is it really up to the legislature to tell him that he can't use it for You know, he can't use it for solar, but he can sell it for residential development. You know, it really is a balancing act, but, you know, I think we just do need to do more to protect farmland in this state. What little is left.
To go have our commission meeting, so good luck. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to let you know, I did get a little bit of an answer. It's not a full answer, but what I got was, it is doubtful they would be able to override through an appeal on 830G industrial zone. Commercial zone is different. Commercially zoned, they have a right of action, but if it's industrial zone, it implies that it's not suitable for residential, and therefore they do not believe that they would be able to appeal it for 830G law.
Hello.
Hi.
Kevin Cunningham. Thank you. First of all, thank you. The Ag Commission had to go to their meeting. Anybody wants to follow them downstairs, it's at 7 o'clock. I do want to thank you for coming out, because this is an opportunity for the public to be able to ask questions and get answers. And for the public also, thank you for coming out, because you don't get a lot of chances like this to actually be able to speak to your representation. So this is great, especially starting session soon. I do have a few things I'm concerned with, and one of them, well, I have a lot of things, but one is you mentioned the Workforce Investment Board as being a pipeline. I want you to know that I'll be monitoring, and I'll reach out to you if something changes, but there was thought of pooling all of the money from all the different areas into one centralized area for money. So therefore, the Eastern Workforce Investment Board would have to ask for money.
Yeah, I'm not sure that sounds like a good idea to me.
It doesn't sound good at all. By the way, I praise Eastern Workforce Investment Board because they have done such a good job. I am on that board, I watch what they do, fantastic things, and I want it to continue, and I want it to grow, especially in the eastern part of the state. That's one thing.
Very often those proposals to merge all these different things together, they claim it's for efficiency, and in the end it costs more, and what it does is it sucks money and resources away from eastern Connecticut and sends it to Bridgeport.
Right. Eastern Workforce is a model for the others, so they shouldn't be taking it away. The other thing is really quick, the early voting. Early voting was set for 14 days. Is there any way you can minimize that? I have a town clerk sitting over here, I'm sure she's going to be concerned with that as well. 14 days. 14 days of early voting means all the extra work that they have to put in, and where is the state coming up with the money for that?
That came up yesterday at our meeting, at the House Republicans meeting, and we are putting forth a letter to address that and reduce the days. But unfortunately, much of what's done in Hartford is a reflection of not us, right? It's a reflection of Bridgeport, New Haven, and Hartford, and these big cities that have the capacity and the ability to man the early voting for 2 weeks. And we don't. It's very costly, and not that many people come out. And when you look at it, you know, versus the amount of people you serve versus the money that was spent. But we are trying to address it, at least get it reduced. I don't know where that's going to go, but we did talk about putting in a proposal for that yesterday. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Diane, how many hours did you work during this past year for the 14 days? How many did you have to be there?
A lot.
Yeah.
I couldn't even give you a number.
And so,
like small towns had one person go early.
yeah.
You know.
I mean, the cost per vote was ridiculous.
I understand that the Secretary of State, from what I understand or what I've been told, that there will be possibly a proposal to cut down the amount of time, because they recognize, they've heard from a lot of town clerks.
They did send out.
And the cost, that they are looking at reducing it. I think it's like the weekend, I don't remember the exact details, but it was a significant reduction.
Right. If you can get it down to Thursday before,
I think it was something like that.
that is a good proposal. It gives you an opportunity to still be able to vote early, but not have people there for 14 days straight.
Because it is very popular. We have a lot of people that like to vote early.
Well, in some places it's popular. You know, I live in a town where there's 2,000 people. There's about 800 voters. During that 14-day period, there were days when literally 2 people showed up. We had 5 people manning the polls for 2 voters. So, you know, it certainly is not efficient. And the whole process leaves questions as to, okay, I'm one of two people who walked into this building today to vote. Where's my ballot? What's going to happen to it for the next 13 days? We raised all these issues when the original early voting bill was being debated. I stood there on the floor and said, this is what's going to happen. We shouldn't be, if we're going to do early voting, let's do 2 days, maybe 3 days. We'll do, a couple of weekdays and a weekend day, and then we have election day, and that's it. And they swore, no, we need 14 days because people are having trouble voting, they can't vote, and all these problems happened. And, we have enough trouble in small towns finding people to man the polls on election day, much less for 14 days. And then, you've got primaries, where are you going to have it? In a town like this, maybe you have a couple of places, but in the smaller towns, and Plainfield's not exactly a big city, but in a town like Scotland with 1,700 people, where are you going to put it for 14 days? You're going to have it in school? You're going to have to shut the school down for 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to put it in the firehouse? You're going to, where are you going to have this? A lot of places just don't have the facilities for it and don't have the people and the money to staff it. So absolutely, I support cutting it down immensely. And if you have early voting, what do you need absentee voting for? Or if you have absentee voting, what do you need early voting for? We don't need them both. We need one simple system where everybody knows how to vote, when to vote, and where to vote, and has the opportunity, and knows that the system has integrity, knows where the ballots are going to be at all times, and is confident that their vote is going to count.
Again, thank you very much for being available to the public. For those people that are here tonight, you know that those packets are in the back. You also have cards for each of the representatives here. You also have a sign-up sheet. So if you want to have follow-up communication, please do a sign-up. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have any last minute? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Marie Hoffman, and I have lived in Plainfield for 44 years. And I live on Black Hill Road, which is going to be near the trash plant. And of course, I'm very concerned and don't want it. But I was happy to hear that you were on the Public Health Committee for the state, and I just wondered, can't something that, obviously air pollution, water pollution, but what about sound, noise pollution? I'm concerned because of the Bristol trash plant. They have some humming or some whistle that is happening, and they don't even know how or where it's coming from. And I am really worried about that, because even in Norwich, I have worked in Norwich, and there's some whistle or humming that I hear when I go to Three Rivers. And it's like, how annoying. So I'm just hoping that being on that commission, maybe the noise pollution and light pollution. And I'm also concerned about the trash plant being so close to the forest. Sorry, what's the forest there? It went out of my head. No, Sugarbrook. It's right across the street from Sugarbrook Forest, and I feel like it's way too close. So those are my concerns, and thank you very much. I'm so happy to hear tonight that you are all against the trash plant. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or concerns?
Come on up, you can come up again.
Hi, I'm back again. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys a question. It's a little spicy. What are your thoughts on ICE right now? You guys condone
On what?
ICE?
On ice in general?
ICE, like the federal agents?
Huh?
What are your thoughts on them?
Well, my thoughts are, first off, I'm a state representative, so no matter what I do, no matter what I say, ICE is ICE. They're a federal agency, and they are empowered to enforce the immigration laws of the state, which have been passed by
So
bipartisan.
do you approve of how they've been acting? That's why I'm just trying to get how you guys feel.
You're not going to get a black and white answer out of me, I'm sorry. You're going to get my answer. My answer is that they are a federal agency and they're enforcing federal law. We need people to enforce federal law. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it correctly.
I
And if
understand
they're
that.
not, and if they do something that's wrong, they should be held accountable for doing something that's wrong.
I understand.
I think, you want me to give you the answer? Let me answer you.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just gonna fight in something else. I'm aware about use of force, so wondering if that is something that, do you think they should be held accountable?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I know there have been 2 shootings. I have no idea whether they were good shootings or bad shootings. Obviously, it's a tragedy when anybody gets shot by law enforcement. However, I can't sit here in Connecticut looking at YouTube videos and determine whether the police acted properly or improperly. I'm not going to prejudge that. I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold my judgment until an investigation is done. So, and frankly, I think that's the responsible thing to do. I can't tell if the officer on the scene shot because he was truly in fear of his life or the lives of others or not. I can't tell that. Just like any other police shooting, we've seen police shootings for generations all over the country. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Everyone deserves to have a full investigation, an objective investigation, and then we determine if the police officer shot when he shouldn't have, well, he needs to be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
He needs, why did this situation happen? Well, we can debate that. Should there have been a situation in the first place? That's a whole other story. But with regard to the shooting itself, I can't sit here in Connecticut and make that judgment. I can just say that if it turns out after a fair and impartial investigation that the officer did wrong, well, then he needs to be held accountable. If that means criminal charges, well, that's what it means. If the shooting was proper, then just like any police shooting, it's a tragedy, but that's what happens when you have a police department.
Do you think, though, because they're federal agents, that they should or should not be held accountable in their actions? Do you think that's the extent of that?
No, I don't think being a federal agent changes whether they should be accountable or not. Any law enforcement officer needs to be held accountable for his own actions, whether it's federal, state, local, doesn't matter.
Do you think with these things that have been going on, with excessive use of force, do you think it's something that police departments, state and local should look at or address, like use of force?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
Do you know what use of force is?
I do know what use of force is.
Okay. So seeing if the departments are applying those guidelines correctly, do you think it's something that should be, like their training or the regulations should be looked at to see if they're appropriate?
You mean, should the local police determine whether or not the federal agents have appropriate training?
No, it's separate. Should state and local law enforcement, do you think, look at their regulations for use of force?
Look at their own regulations for
Yes.
use of force? The legislature and the leadership of the state and local police departments in Connecticut all look at the regulations for use of force on an ongoing basis and amend them as needed.
Okay.
We have a public safety
Isn't that what they
committee
should do?
that does that, yeah.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, and the use of force guidelines are obviously affected by court cases, court decisions, state and federal decisions. People get arrested and claim that their civil rights have been violated for one reason or another based on a certain set of facts. They go to court. Judge determines whether or not their civil rights have been violated. That's where you get things like the Miranda decision, which says that that the police, when they arrest somebody, have to read them their rights with regard to self-incrimination.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Polly O.J. from Musa. I'm just wondering, is Connecticut considered a sanctuary state?
Yes.
Yes.
And why are the residents of Connecticut so supportive of people that are not residents of the country? I don't understand that. Why would you support a foreign person that could come in legally and go through? I know a lot of people that came in. I worked with a lot of people that migrated to the country. And I know one man in particular went through the test 5 times to become a legal citizen in the United States, and we celebrated him for doing that. Why can't people celebrate that? I don't believe in sanctuary cities, I'm sorry, and I think everybody should follow federal law and local law.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have in Connecticut a thing called the Trust Act.
Right.
The Trust Act is a statute that was passed certainly over my adamant opposition, and I'm sure the others at this table as well. And what it says is that the police, state and local police, are not allowed to cooperate with federal authorities with regard to immigration. So if there is a child rapist that has snuck into the country 5 times, and the state police arrest him for another crime, have him in jail in Connecticut, and federal immigration authorities learn that he's in jail in Connecticut, they will go to the state authorities, and they will say, when you're done with this guy, if you're going to let him out, let us know, and we will come and pick him up. Under the Trust Act, the state authorities can't even tell the federal authorities whether or not they have him, where he is, or when he's going to be released. They're required essentially to sneak him out the back door, so the feds can't get to him.
Why do they want to be part of the United States then?
I can't answer that question.
I mean, this year they expanded the Trust Act. This is a bill that passes on party lines. That's what happened. And now you're not even allowed to, federal agents are not allowed even on the federal sidewalk outside of a courthouse. So you are really prevented from having any interaction. And I just want to say that I think it's really important that people hear the full story of whatever comes out of all these things that we've seen on the news, tragic loss of life. But we really need to know the full story. We don't know that yet. The little clips that you see of 30 seconds of this view, they're not telling the full story. And just to sort of add injury to insult to injury, I'm sorry, I messed up that phrase. There are people in positions of power putting out information, and one of them is the head of the teachers union, and put out something that implies very clearly that ICE was in the school taking kids out of school. We have prevented ICE from being in schools, so that's just a blatant lie. That is not helpful for this whole situation. So I would like to try to tone down the rhetoric and make sure that we are talking about the facts. And, we just heard that there's these planned protests. I'd like to know how many protesters are actually being paid to be there. Do they know why they're protesting? And I just think if you are in a position of authority or power, if you're going to put something out, you have to make sure that it's actually accurate. And you don't want to imply that something's happening in the state of Connecticut when it's not. That came up in our Senate caucus today. It was really disturbing that somebody who's in charge of that would put something out like that on a post. I bet the teachers don't know that that's out, and that's who's representing them. And to imply that we are, pulling students out of schools when we have, according to the Trust Act, prevented them from being in school, it does not help the heightened sensitivity on both sides. So I just wanted to share that. I just think that everyone needs to, really take a breath. I know that it's emotional on both sides, but I really think that it's a sad day in our country to see this happening.
Anyone else?
So I'm going to backtrack just for a minute and give a little background on the PH 190. Public Act 190, Forest and Farmland Preservation was passed in this mid-70s.
63.
Pardon?
1963.
Yeah, so it's been around for a long time. So I have some land that's in PH 190, and the values were not changed since then until 2020. So just pointing out that the values stayed static for a long period of time, and now apparently they're going to revalue them every 5 years. So I'm just pointing that out to people that.
No, they've always revalued every 5 years. They stayed pretty much the same, but they do go up and down a little bit. Every 5 years they publish a chart that with new values, and they do go up and down a little bit.
Not much.
Not much. No, they've stayed pretty stable over the decades.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So in 2020 they moved up more than they had over the last
2025.
Yeah.
2020
they revalued and they went up significantly, which more than they have over that long period of time. So
right. Well, some did, some didn't. Things like there are the what they call the river towns. Towns along the Connecticut River are taxed differently than towns that are away from the river.
So PH 190?
Yeah. So on the chart they have the chart is broken down into categories. So there's like tillable A is perfectly flat,
no rocks.
Tillable land, no rocks.
There's four categories of tillable.
Right. It's typically in the river valleys where it's nice flat black soil. Typically you grow tobacco and things like that. And then tillable B, C, D gets progressively worse, hilly, rocky.
Yeah, that's Plainfield still.
Right, but there's a list of towns on that chart where the values are higher in those towns because they're in the river valley.
Yeah. But I'm just hoping that now that it's going through this new evaluation significantly, that it's not going to be jumping up every 5 years significantly. So, now that it's gotten the attention of the state's revenue stream thing, but that's one thing. So I had another question about on your handout here about municipalities across the state continue to face fiscal stress. The capacity to generate property tax revenue cannot keep pace with the rising costs of providing local services, and rising taxes are straining many property owners' finances. So it says that you, in the legislature, you might again consider proposals geared toward supplementing municipal revenue for towns. Is that really on the table? I'm just curious.
I can speak to that from appropriations, because we put the budget together. Every year, we try to provide more relief for our local municipalities. And we typically do a fairly good job getting it out of our budget and appropriations. There's the governor's budget and then appropriations budget. When we finish that budget, it goes to the administration and then it comes back redlined. And usually one of those red lines happens to be municipal budget.
Tax
Yeah.
relief.
So we are trying to, I mean, we have proposals within our Senate, they may be combined on trying to give property tax relief for residents, significant property tax relief for residents.
It's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, the state is really good at passing down mandates saying you have to do X, Y, and Z, and then not funding the municipality, whether it's through your schools or, you know, whatever else it may do. So everyone here tries to vote against mandates because we know that mandates mean you're gonna have to pay for it. You know, mandate with funding even for me is troublesome because usually you get funding the first year and then they cut it for the rest.
Yeah.
So, we all do try to vote against those types of bills that come in.
There's a status of a town as far as being a distressed community or
Yes,
not?
you get additional
Have a bearing on
money.
that?
Yep. There's a weighted system. You know, some towns I represent get like no funding at all from the state. Plainfield does fairly well comparatively, and Kevin's done a really good job at making sure that your voice is at the table and people know, you know, don't forget about us here in Plainfield. You know, we are a distressed community, we have a significant poverty rate, so on and so forth, where a town like Stonington gets no money from the state. And they do have pockets and pockets that are distressed and you know, the kids don't have enough to eat and it's more socioeconomically on the lower end and they still don't get anything. So, or they get very little, I shouldn't say they don't get anything, but very, very little. So unfortunately, there's just not enough money to go around and the money tends to go, as Doug and Ann have said, to all the big cities. They have the majority of, you know, the Senate staff, there's up to 3 or 4 senators from Bridgeport area, you've got one. It's just the makeup of the population too. And the same thing for the state reps also. But we do hear you, we do understand, and you will see some bills from both of our caucuses to come out for relief, both property tax, perhaps some income tax relief, et cetera, coming out.
So that would be a specific thing for the town, the town would have to, the property tax relief would be a specific thing that the town would have to go with it. It wouldn't be just a check for the town.
No, it would, you know, some of the proposals, you know, I can't, like, it's not completely fleshed out, but for example, one of the ideas was, if you're paying $10,000 in property tax, that you can take $5,000 and write that right off your state income tax. You know, take that off. So that would be a significant help for you, those types of things. Because right now we give a property tax credit, which is like $300, but you know, if you make over $70,000, you can't take that credit. So, you know, anybody who's in the middle making over that really has no benefit. So we're trying to figure out how to provide a benefit across the board. And we have to make sure that we can do it within the constraints we have within our budget. The other thing we are going to all look at is the fraud, waste, and abuse that we have in our budget system. We have people in the Senate being investigated for fraud right now. For you know, steering nonprofit funding towards someone that they know. I don't know where that's gonna end up. But those are, every year when you look at the budget, it goes out of appropriations and it comes back with a list. Last year I counted them, I think there was 13, there might have been more, of new nonprofits that are getting money. That nobody knows where they came from. Nobody knows who put that in the budget. Nobody knows what the nonprofits are doing. There's no tax IDs, there's no filing.
No tax ID?
There's nothing. It's just, you know, the Pakistani physicians of Connecticut. I'm like, where did they come from and why are they all of a sudden in the budget for X amount? We had the Bangladesh Society of Connecticut. There was 4 different line items for that. You know, that was somebody's ask in the Senate, most likely, to put that in the budget, but with no vetting, no application. And when you total it up, it's a lot of money. And that money could go back to town. So we are going to be introducing sort of a reform. I know the House is working on one also. You know, that kind of stuff can't happen anymore. We don't have the money. There's a, you know, if I get money for nonprofits, but I know exactly where that money is going for the nonprofit is there, you know where every penny goes, it's very little money.
It's accountable.
It's accountable. So I think that's something that we need to spend a lot of time doing and a lot of time listening to.
One more question. The recycling status, you know, Connecticut has its recycling bill, which my father was in politics back in the legislature years ago.
Are you talking about the bottle bill?
Yeah, well, the bottle bill, but not in a more general term, what's happening with the recycling materials, because I know for the last year or two, when China stopped buying our plastic because it was too dirty, it created a huge problem because we couldn't ship to China. So now it's going somewhere, and from what I know, what I've read, a lot of it's being burned because there's no place, nobody wants it. So it's a huge problem.
We don't really recycle in Connecticut.
No, so I'm just curious what the status is of that right now. So does the recycling in Connecticut go somewhere else, or does it just get burned in the incinerator?
Well, it depends on what it is. Things like glass. Glass is almost all glass is used is recycled. There's a plant somewhere in the Bristol area, I think, that essentially they can take all the glass that the state could produce, and they turn it into all sorts of products. There was a study, I don't know if it's actually finished, about adding crushed glass into asphalt for the highways in Connecticut. If that were allowed, it would be able to use up, you know, every piece of glass that we can produce. Plastic is a harder one.
Plastic is the problem.
Yeah, you know, paper. Most of the paper is recycled as well, is reused in one form or another. The problem with paper is it's very often contaminated and very dirty. So it's very expensive to separate out that which is useful and that which is contaminated. But a lot of paper gets burned too, because it's contaminated.
So from what you folks, your general knowledge about the plastic situation, that it's right now it's pretty much being burned or put in a landfill. Okay.
And we also have a big problem with the deposit issue with plastic bottles. I just recently met with our distributors, right, that distribute.
So Coca-Cola,
Yeah,
Pepsi.
at the other end of the state, for example, they are getting more returns than they sell. Because you have trucks coming over from New York loaded with returns that are coming to our redemption centers that are going to the distributors, the returning bottles that were not purchased in the state of Connecticut.
And they don't they have to have a sticker on them? You can't check them.
Yeah, some of them have been recycled a few times. They go one place and get 5 cents and then come someplace else. It's a huge issue that we have to figure out.
Kind of a scam.
Yeah, one of the problems is we keep increasing the amount of the deposit, which means that when somebody returns it, they get more money. So if somebody in another state who only paid a nickel on their deposit can get a dime to redeem it, well, it's worth loading up a truck and going from another state into Connecticut. Now, it's supposed to be based on the barcodes. So if you have a bottle that's from Massachusetts and you bring it to Connecticut, the barcode is supposed to say, you know, you can't redeem it here. You have to go there. The problem is that it's difficult for the manufacturers to keep up and to keep changing the barcodes. Like if you look at a bottle now, you'll see that it says CTRV on it. It doesn't say 10 cents. It says CTRV. RV is redemption value. They put that on the bottom because they don't know what our redemption value is gonna be in 6 months or a year or next year. So so rather than retooling everything to print something on the labels, they just put CTRV. Well, every other state has a number on it, except us, because ours keeps changing. And they don't want to have to change the barcodes because it's expensive. Every time they do that, they got to change, millions of labels. So that's also a problem. And the redemption centers are also a problem. You stand there with a truckload of bottles, put in each bottle into a machine, it could take you all day. You can't, because it's barcode specific, you can't bring crushed cans and bottles. So everything has, it takes up so much space. And where do you put all these empty bottles? You got a bar or something, or you got a little shop where a bodega, you might have thousands and thousands of empty bottles. Where are you going to put them all? Outside, it's going to attract mice and rats. It's becoming a real big problem, especially on bottles that aren't getting recycled anyway.
Is there any kind of discussion about plastic remanufacturing? Like in China, they remanufacture plastic for other parts of the world. And in the United States, there really is very limited industrial recycling of plastic material from recycled plastic. But I was just wondering if there's anybody's come up with any ideas of that.
Not that I know of. I know there's been talk about requiring that plastic contains certain elements that make it biodegradable, but it really hasn't worked out. You're going to have biodegradable plastic, you have food in it, and it starts to rot.
Yeah, well, it's problematic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we have one other question. Diane, you have a question? Yeah. I know you've been waiting back there.
I had to share as well. But I just want to talk about the early voting. I know you guys touched on that, and I agree with you, Doug. At first I was like, oh, we already have all this other stuff in place, but then when I saw what was rolling out, we do have residents that really did use the service that I did. I see the need. You have the elderly, the disabled, people that don't want to stand in lines, that physically would feel uncomfortable doing such. They were more comfortable doing the early voting. I had a resident who had 2 days notice, works for ED, had to get on a flight, head out to Hawaii, wouldn't be here for the election, didn't even have time for pretty much anything else other than to early vote. So those types of scenarios are great. Taking away the absentee ballot part of it, I don't feel like it's one or the other, because today in the mail I received 2 applications for military members that are away, and they're going to be away during this upcoming election cycle. So they put in their request for ballots to be mailed to them. It was a husband and a wife that are still in overseas. So we still see that, and then we have our permanent absentee balloters. Those people have a disability where they cannot get to us. So I echo Kevin's statements that we should reduce those hours because it's way too long and costly. I do appreciate the funding that state did send us over the last couple of years while we implemented this. That would be great if that funding kept coming. But as far as...
Yeah, it's not going to continue. You
I know,
that, right?
I know.
It's the way the state always works. They'll fund it the first year to get your hook, and then
I
take the funding
myself
away.
and became a moderator and did the moderator training and trying to help with the registrars and getting, trying to save money, in-house. But there are parts of I'm sure you've all seen the SAVE bill coming through, and I really think that that's something that we should be looking at as well. Some, our voter registration logs and things like that, keeping an eye out on that kind of stuff and taking a look at this bill that's going to be coming down the pipeline. But let's support that one. But as far as fully taking away early voting or absentee, I definitely would not, because I was a skeptic myself. I'm like, what are they going to have me do? Go knocking on people's doors? But now I see the need, and I see how people do need that.
Well, I guess I should have limited it. I actually meant no excuse
pass
Got it.
into
Oh,
the
okay.
ballot.
Yeah.
Because, you know, what's the difference between that and early voting?
Not much. But then, yeah, having an excuse like the ones that we currently have, being a military service member, things like that, they should still have that right to get their ballot. But thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for waiting. Anyone else have any questions?
Well, thank you very much. Oh, we got one.
Hi, welcome to Plainfield. My name is Arali, and I live here for last 33 years. And I was listening about immigration and stuff. And I wanted last 4 years, then Biden was in administration, and we all know that we have a 20-year war with Afghanistan, right? So we spend so much taxpayer money in Afghanistan. So after troops come back, and you know, our troops come back here, and then what is the reason to bring those people who don't even, you know who they are, full plane of, you know, like, bring it here, give them immigration, everything, then they're crossing the border, and some people are very proud, you know, I'm from Pakistan, but I live here, but I am against that, you know, like, why you guys letting in everybody in, like, come how I come on a JFK, and I am proud of that. I have 2 kids, they went to Plainfield High School. My daughter, she just finishing her master in public health in Yukon, and she's a DA over there. My son, he's doing political science, he's from Plainfield, top 10 student. He's in Dean list, put his name, I'm proud of 2 kids. But I run first time here, I mean, we don't have too many Pakistanis and Indians here. I have more votes than anybody here, right? 1971 votes. So if somebody say, you know, they are racist, how many colored people sitting here? Nobody. I'm the only one, but believe me, I am very comfortable here. I know every third person here, they are very nice to me. Come America, right way. Like my brother, like just got visa. He's in a bank. They say Trump is not giving visa. He just got visa. And I tell him, don't come in, like I'm busy right now, he's coming to visit me, work in a national bank. And he have a 5-year visa, his wife have a visa. Come right way. I mean, why you guys let these people, and I will tell them now, I'm like, you know, I met you before once, but I will talk with you guys more, I give you guys more leads. And you know, I'm connected with Sajid, who worked with President Trump. He was in 2016 convention. The last speech he did, he's a good friend of mine, and he's helping Pakistani government and US government working together. And these illegal aliens, I mean, sorry, using that word, crossing borders, so many people came, we don't know who the hell they are, still, you know, and if it go, ICE has not come to me, ICE, welcome, I love ICE, I support ICE, but this is like wrong, they're just doing propaganda, doing this, they are wrong. I mean, she was talking about position organizations, they should register. They have a lot of parties in Pakistan, like PTI, People's Party, they are not registered here. They're sending them money like too much, you know, everything should, you know, they should pay tax. And those parties are not like Republican and Democrat, they should take care of stuff first here and then register with the government, stuff like that, and then you can, you know, do it. But the thing is, she is right, but is not everybody bad. You know, immigrant. I know, I love you. I mean, I know you who you are. But the thing is, like, this is like even myself is saying, why these people are coming in? I live it never happened like that. Last 4 years, they let so many people in, and they're taking people's jobs. I will tell them story, which one I don't want to talk in public, but I will give them leads, and they will forward those where have to be go. There's a lot of leads, a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of crooked stuff. And you know, we can't talk because we don't want to get shot, you know, like Charlie Kirk. So it's a lot of stuff, you know. He's doing amazing job, President, and I support him, and I stand with him.
Well, thank you.
And welcome to Plainfield.
Thank you, Ali. Anyone else? No? Well, thank you very much, everybody. Very much appreciate your coming.
Thank you to the representatives coming out tonight. Thank you for the residents. Reminder one more time, back in the back, if you want to sign up to continue the communication with your representatives, there's a sign-up sheet in the back. Thank you all for coming out.